November 2nd, 1944. 25,000 feet above the tangled, oil-stained heart of the German war machine, the Ruhr Valley. Inside the cramped cockpit of his P-51D Mustang, Lieutenant Jack Riley feels the cold seep through his flight suit. It's a bone-deep chill that has nothing to do with the thin, sub-zero air outside his Perspex canopy. It's the cold of anticipation. Below him, a vast metallic river of B-17 flying fortresses drones eastward, their mission to pound the synthetic oil refineries at Merseburg. Riley's squadron, the 363rd Fighter Squadron of the 357th Fighter Group, is their shield. They are the Yoxford boys, and their Mustangs, with their signature red and yellow checkerboard noses, are the guardian angels of the 8th Air Force. The air is deceptively calm, a vast, empty cathedral of blue. But every pilot knows the stillness is a lie. Riley scans the sky, his head on a constant swiveling search. His eyes ache from the strain of staring into the blinding sun, hunting for the tiny black specks that mean death. His call sign is Solo, a nickname earned for his quiet demeanor and his unnerving habit of spotting enemy fighters long before anyone else. Today, that skill is about to be tested to its absolute limit. The radio crackles to life, the voice of his flight leader, Captain Davies, sharp and steady. "Bandits, 3 o'clock high. Looks like a long scout." Riley's eyes snap to the right. There it is, a single Focke-Wulf FW-190, its snub-nosed radial engine profile unmistakable. It's high, almost impossibly so, a predator testing the edges of the formation, looking for a straggler, a moment of weakness. It's arrogant, too arrogant. The German pilot dips a wing, a clear challenge, before pulling up and away. It's a classic tactic, bait, designed to pull an impatient American pilot away from the protective screen of the bombers, to lure him into a one-on-one duel where his friends can't help him. Every pilot in the 363rd knows the rulebook. Stay with the big friends, never break formation for a single bogey. But something about this one feels different to Riley. The way it moved, it was too perfect, too theatrical. "Solo, you see him?" Davies asks. "I have him, lead. He's trying to pull us off," Riley responds, his voice calm, betraying none of the tension coiling in his gut. The FW-190 makes another pass, this time closer, his pilot a fleeting silhouette in the cockpit. It feels personal. The German is taunting them, daring them. Captain Davies makes the call. "All right, let's teach him some manners. Solo, you're with me. The rest of you, stick to the bombers like glue." Riley pushes his throttle forward, the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine under the long cowling roaring from a deep growl to a thundering scream. The Mustang surges ahead, climbing effortlessly to meet the challenge. He and Davies ascend in a perfect corkscrew, a dance of predators chasing their prey. The German pilot seems to play along, leading them further and further west, away from the bomber stream and the rest of their squadron. The chase is exhilarating, a pure contest of speed and nerve. Riley feels the familiar adrenaline surge, the feeling of man and machine becoming one. But the cold feeling in his stomach is growing. It's too easy. The German ace isn't fighting back with the ferocity Riley expects. He's just running, pulling them deeper into empty sky. Then he sees it, glinting, not one glint, but dozens. The sun flashing off canopies where there should be only clouds. They are emerging from the sun's glare, a position no pilot can effectively scan. An entire staffel of German fighters, at least 20 of them, a hornet's nest of PF-109s and FW-190s, is dropping from above, perfectly positioned for a killing blow. The lone scout wasn't bait for one pilot, it was bait for the whole flight. "Lead, it's a trap. Break left," Riley screams into his microphone. Davies reacts instantly, banking his Mustang so hard the wings groan in protest. Riley follows, the G-forces pressing him deep into his seat. But they are too late. The sky, empty seconds before, is now a swirling vortex of enemy aircraft. Tracer rounds like fiery red claws slash through the air around them. A pair of FW-190s latch onto Davies' tail. Riley tries to swing around to help, but 2 more pounds on him, their 20mm cannons spitting shells that sound like angry hornets buzzing past his cockpit. He's separated, utterly and completely cut off from his leader, from his squadron, from any hope of support. The sky has become a cage, and he is the only thing inside it.
The world dissolves into a chaos of roaring engines, hammering machine guns, and the gut-wrenching whine of passing shells. Jack Riley's P-51 is no longer a graceful weapon, it's a cornered animal. He throws the Mustang into a series of violent, desperate maneuvers, a split S, a barrel roll, anything to shake the 2 FW-190s glued to his tail. The German pilots are good, staying just outside his turn radius, patiently waiting for the perfect shot. He can see the black crosses on their wings every time he risks a glance over his shoulder. Through the static and terror, his radio spits out fragments of a battle happening miles away. "Red Flight, engage those 109s on the right. I'm hit! I'm hit!" And then Captain Davies' voice, strained with panic and disbelief. Solo, where are you? Talk to me, Jack! I'm cut off, west of the stream. I've got a whole damn circus on me, Riley grunts, pulling back on the stick so hard he feels a gray veil creep into the edges of his vision. He can picture the scene from his squadron's perspective. Two of their own, Riley and Davies, lured away, with Riley now swallowed by a swarm. The rules of engagement are brutal but simple. You do not sacrifice the squadron to save one man. You especially do not sacrifice the protection of hundreds of bomber crewmen for one fighter pilot, no matter who he is. The final terrible transmission crackles in his ears. It's Davies again, his voice heavy with resignation, a eulogy delivered to a man still living. Check your 6, you're surrounded, get out of there. We can't reach you, Solo. Repeat, we cannot reach you. Disengage and head for the deck, that's an order. Get out of there. It was a death sentence disguised as a command. To head for the deck meant diving thousands of feet, a desperate run for home with 20 Luftwaffe fighters on your tail. You might outrun 2 or 3, but a whole squadron? They would take turns, one diving after another, until your fuel ran out or their cannons found their mark. No one survived a chase like that. From a distance, the other pilots of the 363rd would see it, the tiny silver speck of his Mustang, hopelessly orbited by a dozen dark German aircraft, like sharks circling a single swimmer. They would watch for a moment, a knot of sickness in their stomachs, and then they would be forced to turn away. They had a job to do. They had to protect the bombers. In their minds, Lieutenant Jack Solo Riley was already dead. He was a ghost, a name to be quietly toasted in the officers' mess that night. The German pilots sense his isolation. Their attacks become bolder, more confident. They are no longer just trying to shoot him down. They are toying with him. They form a loose, rotating circle of death around him, a tactic the Luftwaffe called a Luftberry circle. 1 or 2 would peel off, make a firing pass, and then rejoin the circle while the next pair attacked. It was inescapable. They could do this all day, patiently carving him up piece by piece. Riley's mind races faster than his engine. Run? They'd catch him. Fight? He was outnumbered 20-1. Every instinct, every hour of training screamed at him to dive, to flee. But he knows it's useless. Looking at the ring of predators enclosing him, he doesn't see a tactical problem. He sees a firing squad. And in that moment of absolute despair, something shifts. The fear doesn't vanish, but it crystallizes into a strange, cold clarity. The rulebook got him into this mess. The rulebook said to run. The rulebook was going to get him killed. He watches as 2 more FW-190s break from the circle and begin their attack run, their cannons blinking in the distance. They expect him to dive or break left or right. They know what he is going to do before he does. He decides to do something that isn't in the book, something that makes no sense, something insane. Instead of pushing the throttle forward, he reaches down and grabs it, pulling it back, all the way back. The Merlin engine, screaming at full combat power, is suddenly starved of fuel. Its roar dies to a choked cough. The propeller blades slow, their bite on the air turning soft. He then reaches for another control, one almost never used in combat. He deploys his flaps.
For the 2 Focke-Wulf pilots boring in on Riley's tail, the world suddenly stops making sense. Their target, the sleek American Mustang that had been flying at over 400 miles per hour, is now behaving in a way that defies all laws of aviation. Instead of accelerating away, it is decelerating with impossible speed, as if it had slammed into an invisible wall in the sky. Inside Riley's cockpit, the effect is deafening and violent. The P-51 shudders, the airframe screaming in protest. The sudden deceleration throws him forward against his harness, and the controls go slack and mushy in his hands. The roar of the wind over the canopy drops to an eerie, whistling moan. His airspeed indicator needle plummets, 300, 250, 200, dangerously close to stall speed. A red warning light flashes on his dash. He's turning his $500,000 fighter plane, one of the most advanced aerial machines in the world, into a brick. But he isn't falling. Not yet. As the plane slows, he stumps on his left rudder pedal hard. The massive torque of the still-spinning propeller, combined with the sudden drag from the flaps and the rudder input, forces the Mustang into a maneuver that no training manual could ever describe. It doesn't stall and fall. It begins to skid sideways through the air, its nose yawing dramatically to the left in a flat, uncoordinated turn. The aircraft is no longer flying forward. It is drifting, almost hovering.
its momentum bleeding away in a controlled, physics-defying slide. The two German pilots, traveling at twice his speed, are caught completely by surprise. They have their gun sights perfectly lined up on where Riley should have been, but he is no longer there. They flash past him with a thunderous roar, their cannon shells ripping through empty air. For a stunning, disorienting second, Riley is no longer the prey. He is the stationary hub at the center of a spinning wheel of predators. And his guns are pointing directly at the belly of the second FW-190 as it overshoots him. He doesn't have time to think. He squeezes the trigger on his control stick. The 6.50 caliber Browning machine guns in his wings erupt in a single deafening concussion. A torrent of armor-piercing, incendiary rounds, a solid fist of American steel, smashes into the German fighter. The tracers converge on the Focke-Wulf's fuselage just behind the cockpit. The plane seems to absorb the impacts for a split second, and then it simply comes apart. A wing shears off, followed by a gout of black smoke and bright orange flame. The FW-190 tumbles out of the starry, no longer an airplane, but a piece of falling wreckage. First kill. The German radio network erupts in a cacophony of shocked and confused voices. What was that? He stalled. Where did Klaus go? The leader of the German Staffel, Hauptmann Erich Vogel, a veteran ace with over 60 kills, watches from above, his mind struggling to process what he just saw. The American didn't outturn his men. He didn't outclimb them. He just stopped. It was an amateur's mistake, a fatal error that should have resulted in an easy kill. Yet it was one of his own pilots, Klaus, who was now a funeral pyre falling towards the German countryside. Vogel snarls into his radio. He is a dead man. All flights, tighten the circle. Do not let him escape. Attack in pairs. Two more fighters peel away from the circle to make their attack run. It's a pair of Messerschmitt Bf-109s this time, sleeker and more agile than the FW-190s. Their pilots, having seen what happened to Klaus, approach with more caution. They expect the trick now. But knowing what's coming and knowing how to counter it are two very different things. Riley repeats the maneuver. He pulls back the throttle, kicks the rudder, and lets his Mustang slide through the air like a pendulum. The 109s adjust, trying to predict his slide, but their speed is their enemy. They are built for high-speed energy fighting, not a slow-motion knife fight. As they sweep past, Riley, now a master of his own bizarre brand of aerial combat, pivots his floating gun platform and fires again. This time, his stream of .50 caliber rounds catches the lead 109 square in its engine cowling. The Daimler-Benz engine explodes, shattering the propeller and sending the plane into an uncontrolled end-over-end tumble. Second kill. The German pilots are no longer confident. They are confused. Their greatest advantage, their overwhelming numbers, is suddenly becoming their greatest weakness. In their haste to get a shot at this bizarre, almost stationary target, they are forced to break their own formations, to fly dangerously close to one another. The sky that once was their perfectly organized hunting ground is descending into a chaotic free-for-all. And at the center of it all, Jack Riley drifts and waits, his guns ready.
The next 90 seconds are a blur of instinct, fire, and steel. The carefully constructed German wolf pack has dissolved into a panicked mob. Hauptmann Vogel screams orders over the radio, trying to restore discipline, but it's too late. The sight of two of their comrades falling in flames at the hands of a single, seemingly stalled American plane has shattered their composure. It is a contagion of chaos, and Jack Riley is the source. A third and fourth plane, another FW-190 and a Bf-109, dive on him simultaneously from different angles, trying to catch him in a crossfire. Riley performs his trick again, but this time he adds a new wrinkle. As his plane slows and yaws, he gives it a touch of elevator, causing the Mustang to dip its nose slightly. It's not a dive, it's a controlled fall, a falling leaf maneuver. He drops 100 feet in a blink, and the streams of cannon fire from both German fighters pass harmlessly over his canopy. As they overshoot, they are now flying directly towards each other. They brake hard to avoid a collision, presenting Riley with two perfect broadside targets. He doesn't hesitate. He squeezes the trigger, raking the FW-190 from tail to cockpit. It disintegrates under the concentrated fire of the 6 Brownings. Third kill. He immediately snaps his plane's nose to the right, the Mustang groaning under the strain, and catches the Bf-109 as it tries to climb away. His bullets walk up the fuselage and tear into the pilot's canopy. The enemy plane rolls over lazily onto its back and begins its final silent dive. Fourth kill. From above, Vogel watches in horror. This isn't a dogfight anymore. It's a slaughter. The American pilot is not fighting like a pilot. He is fighting like a turret gunner on a fortress, a fixed point in space that spits death in every direction. The sky around the P-51 is now a lethal bubble, about 200 yards in radius. To enter it is to die. Another pair of FW-190s, flown by younger, more aggressive pilots, tries a high-speed pass from below, hoping to catch him off guard. Riley sees them coming. As they zoom upwards, he does the one thing they don't expect. He doesn't slow down. He pushes the throttle forward, rolls his Mustang upside down, and pulls into a negative G dive, meeting them head-on. The German pilots are completely wrong-footed. Before they can even adjust their aim, Riley is on them, firing as he plummets. His tracers stitch a fiery line across the lead plane's engine. 5th kill. The second pilot, seeing his leader explode, panics and pulls up sharply, exposing the entire underside of his aircraft. Riley, still inverted, corrects his aim and fires a sustained burst. The FW-190's belly tank ignites, and the plane vanishes in a blinding flash of fuel and fire. 6th kill. The massacre is relentless. The air is thick with the smell of cordite and burning oil. Riley is no longer thinking, he is pure reaction. He is a part of the machine. The stick is an extension of his arm, the throttle a part of his will. He executes his bizarre stall and slide maneuver again and again, and each time it claims another victim. A Bf-109 tries to match his slow speed turn and promptly enters a fatal spin. 7th kill. An FW-190 makes a head-on pass. Riley doesn't flinch, holding down the trigger until the German pilot loses his nerve and breaks away, flying directly through a wall of 50 caliber slugs. 8th kill. His guns are growing hot, the barrels threatening to warp. The vibration is immense. He can feel the heat through the cockpit floor. Another Bf-109 makes a clumsy pass, its pilot clearly terrified. Riley gives it a short, precise burst, and the plane's tail assembly is shredded. It spins away, out of control. 9th kill. Vogel, the German ace, is screaming, his voice raw with fury and disbelief. He cannot do this. It is impossible. He finally decides to take matters into his own hands. He pushes his FW-190 into a steep dive, building up immense speed, planning to blow through Riley's defensive bubble and kill him with a single perfect burst from his 4 cannons. Riley sees him coming, the yellow spinner on his propeller marking him as the leader. This is the one. This is the kill that matters. He waits, letting Vogel get closer, closer, until the German ace fills his entire windscreen. At the last possible second, he performs his signature move. Throttle back, flaps down, rudder over. The Mustang slows violently. Vogel, traveling at nearly 500 miles per hour, cannot react in time. He overshoots, just as Riley knew he would. And as the German ace flashes past, Riley gives him the full, unabated fury of his remaining ammunition. The stream of bullets tears the FW-190 to pieces, from its rudder to its cockpit. 10th kill. The remaining German pilots, seeing their leader destroyed by the same impossible trick, break. Their morale shatters completely. They turn and flee in every direction, no longer a fighter squadron, but a terrified, scattered flock. But Riley isn't done. He spots 3 more in a loose formation trying to escape. With his engine now screaming at full power, he gives chase. He is the predator once more. He catches the trailing plane easily, a short burst sending it down in smoke. 11th kill. He closes on the second, whose pilot is jinking wildly, trying to throw off his aim. It's useless. Riley is methodical, patient. He waits for the German plane to level out for a second and fires, riddling the cockpit. 12th kill. The last plane is in his sights. The pilot is running for his life. Riley lines him up, squeezes the trigger, and the guns hammer for a final, glorious second before falling silent. He is out of ammunition, but his last burst was enough. Black smoke pours from the Bf-109's engine. It trails away, losing altitude, a dead plane flying. 13th kill. And then, silence. A profound, ringing silence, broken only by the steady hum of his own engine. The sky, which moments ago was a maelstrom of death, is now completely, utterly empty. He is alone again. The entire engagement, from the first kill to the last, had taken less than 120 seconds.
For a long moment, Jack Riley simply flies straight and level, his knuckles white on the control stick. His breath comes in ragged, shallow gasps. The adrenaline begins to recede, leaving behind a deep, bone-jarring tremor in his hands. He looks around at the empty sky, at the dozen or so pillars of black smoke marking the graves of a German fighter squadron, and his mind refuses to accept what just happened. It feels like a dream, a feverish hallucination born of fear and desperation.
A red light on his instrument panel brings him back to reality. Engine temperature. It's glowing, the needle pushed far into the red zone. The Merlin had been subjected to an unimaginable strain, cycling between near idle and full combat power again and again. His fuel gauge is worryingly low. His Mustang, a hero moments before, is now a wounded, exhausted beast, desperate to get home. He turns the nose of his P-51 west, towards England, towards safety. Over the radio, there is only static. The main battle has moved on. He is alone, a solitary speck over enemy territory. He begins the long, tense flight home, nursing his overheating engine, constantly checking the sky behind him for vengeful fighters who might have regrouped. But none come. It seems the survivors of Vogelstaffel wanted nothing more to do with the phantom Mustang that could stop in midair. An hour later, a familiar, welcome sight appears on the horizon, the green fields of East Anglia and the runway of RAF Leiston, home of the 357th Fighter Group. He calls the tower, his voice hoarse, almost a whisper. Leiston Tower, this is Mustang Red 4, Solo, coming in for a landing. The controller's voice comes back, laced with shock. Red 4, Solo, we had you listed as lost in action. Welcome home, son. He brings the Mustang in for a gentle landing, the tires kissing the tarmac with a soft chirp. As he taxis towards his squadron's hardstand, the ground crews and pilots begin to gather. They emerge from the Nissan huts and maintenance sheds, their faces a mixture of confusion and awe. They had heard Captain Davies' report. They knew Riley had been cut off and surrounded. They thought they were seeing a ghost. As he shuts down the engine, the silence that follows is profound. He pops the canopy, the cool, damp English air a balm on his sweat-soaked face. His crew chief, a grizzled sergeant named Mac, is the first to reach him. He looks at Riley, then at the state of the Mustang. It's covered in soot, streaked with oil, and pockmarked in a dozen places by shrapnel from his exploding victims. Then he looks at the gun cam reports. The film canisters would be full. Lieutenant, what the hell happened up there? Mac asks, his voice barely audible. Riley just shakes his head, too exhausted to form the words. He climbs out of the cockpit, his legs unsteady, and nearly collapses before Mac and another pilot catch him. Captain Davies pushes through the crowd, his face pale. He puts a hand on Riley's shoulder. Jack, we wrote you off. We saw them all over you. How did you get out? Riley finally finds his voice. I didn't get out, Captain, he says, his voice raspy. The story came out later, during the debriefing, confirmed by the startling, almost unbelievable gun camera footage. 13 kills in 2 minutes. The intelligence officers were speechless. They watched the film over and over, trying to comprehend the bizarre, pirouetting maneuver. They had no name for it. It defied their understanding of aerodynamics and air combat doctrine. It was a move born of pure, unadulterated desperation and genius. Lieutenant Jack, Solo, Riley became a legend overnight, but he never spoke of the incident with any pride. To him, it wasn't a moment of glory. It was 120 seconds of pure, focused terror, where the only rule was to survive. He had stumbled upon something in that moment of extremity, a secret relationship between his aircraft and the laws of physics that no one had ever discovered before, and no one has been able to replicate since. Aviation historians and engineers have studied the reports for decades. They call it an aerodynamic anomaly, a fluke, a 1 in a billion moment where the conditions of speed, altitude, and aircraft dynamics aligned perfectly. But for the pilots of the 8th Air Force who flew the skies over Germany, it was something more. It was the story of the pilot who was finished, surrounded and left for dead, until he taught the Luftwaffe a terrifying new kind of physics, written in the smoke and fire of 13 falling planes.